The World Health Organization declared loneliness a global health threat in 2023. Entire governments are building task forces to fight isolation. And meanwhile, you deleted someone's number last Tuesday and slept better than you have in months. You're not spiraling. You're not depressed. If anything, your life got calmer the moment you stopped answering. And that confuses people. Because you were supposed to feel guilty. You were supposed to miss them. But you don't. So let's talk about why your brain works this way. Because once you understand the science behind it, you'll stop questioning yourself. Everyone around you has the same script. You're too cold. You're emotionally unavailable. You don't know how to maintain relationships like a normal person. And you've heard it so often that part of you started believing it, that maybe something is wrong with the way you're wired. But research in clinical psychology tells a very different story, and it's one that most of the people judging you will never bother to look up. Think about the person you cut off most recently, not the dramatic fallout, the quiet one, the friend you just stopped reaching out to. You probably can't point to a single moment that broke it. But you remember the feeling, that heaviness after every conversation, that sense of performing a version of yourself that had nothing to do with who you actually are. Dr. Lindsay Gibson, a clinical psychologist who spent decades studying emotional depletion, describes this as a pattern of chronic self-erasure. You override your own needs so consistently that your body eventually stops asking for permission and starts protecting you on its own. That's not a metaphor. Your nervous system has a built-in shutdown protocol. Dr. Stephen Porges mapped this out in his polyvagal research. When your system has absorbed too much social stress for too long, it shifts into conservation mode, withdrawal, silence, distance, not because you chose it consciously, because your biology decided you'd given enough. You didn't become heartless. Your body put up a fence because you never did. But that's only half the story, because it doesn't explain why you saw the problem long before anyone else noticed. You already know what I'm about to describe. That friend who only reaches out when their life falls apart, that person whose kindness always has a second motive, that family member who makes everything about themselves and then wonders why you stopped calling. You clocked these patterns early, way before you had the words for it. A 2023 paper in Nature Neuroscience revealed that individuals raised in emotionally unpredictable environments develop significantly stronger activity in the brain's threat detection regions. Your amygdala learned to scan every room, every conversation, every text message for signals that most people never even register. Researchers at the University of Iowa confirmed that the prefrontal cortex works overtime in people with this background. You're not overthinking. You're processing social data at a speed most people can't access. So when you pull away from someone, it's not a snap decision. You gave them chances they never knew about. You tested the relationship quietly. You watched whether anything changed. And when it didn't, you already knew the ending before it arrived. That ability to read what's beneath the surface isn't a disorder. It's thousands of hours of lived experience compressed into an instinct, and your instinct has been right more often than people want to admit. Here's the part most people skip over. This didn't start with your last friendship. It started much earlier. Psychologist Murray Bowen was one of the first to study this. He called it emotional cutoff. It's a pattern that forms when a child grows up learning that closeness comes with a price. That love and chaos are packaged together, that someone's mood can rearrange the entire atmosphere of a home. If that sounds familiar, you probably learned to read the room before you learned to read. You knew which version of a parent was walking through the door based on the sound of their footsteps. You became an expert at managing other people's emotions before you even understood your own. Attachment researchers would likely place you somewhere on the dismissive avoidant spectrum, not because you don't want closeness, because your earliest experiences taught your nervous system that closeness is where things get dangerous. And here's what makes this so painful. You often want connection more than anyone in the room. You imagine what it would feel like to fully let someone in. But every time you get close, something in your chest tightens. That's not a character flaw. That's a survival response that was installed before you had any say in the matter. There's a phase that usually hits somewhere between your mid-20s and mid-30s. Psychologists call it identity consolidation. It's when you start peeling apart who you actually are from the version of yourself that was assembled by everyone else's expectations. During this phase, relationships that seemed fine for years suddenly feel hollow, not because anyone did something wrong, because you finally gained the clarity to see what was always there. Some people only valued the version of you that was useful to them. Some friendships were built on proximity and routine, not on anything that actually mattered. The moment you see that, something breaks open, and the distance between who you've been pretending to be and who you actually are becomes impossible to ignore. You're not cutting people off during this phase because you're cruel. You're doing it because staying would mean continuing to betray yourself. And for the first time, that feels worse than being alone. The people who judge you for it are almost always the ones who haven't reached this phase yet. They still believe that keeping everyone close is the same as being a good person. You used to believe that too. Here's what the motivational posts leave out. Cutting people off costs something, and the price is real. The CDC reports that prolonged social disconnection raises the risk of heart disease by 29% and stroke by 32%. This isn't just emotional, it's physical. Your body keeps score whether you want it to or not. But here's what those statistics miss. Staying in relationships that drain you carries its own damage. Chronic interpersonal stress has been linked to elevated cortisol, weakened immune function, and accelerated cellular aging. So the question was never stay or leave. It was always, which kind of pain are you willing to carry? You chose the quiet kind, the empty Saturday, the moment something funny happens and you pick up your phone and realize there's no one to tell. You feel that weight. But you chose it over the weight of pretending. And that trade only makes sense to someone who knows what it's like to sit in a full room and feel completely unseen. Being alone and being at peace are not the same thing. But for you, they started overlapping the day you stopped forcing yourself into spaces that made you smaller. The people who stayed in your life after the cuts look different from the ones who left. Not louder, not more exciting, just real. The kind of people where silence doesn't need to be filled. Where you can exist without performing. Harvard's longest-running study on human happiness tracked over 700 people across 75 years. The single strongest finding had nothing to do with how many relationships you maintain. It came down to the depth of the ones you keep. Your circle got smaller, but the air inside it got easier to breathe. And that quiet you built around yourself, the one that other people mistake for loneliness, you know what it actually is. It's the first version of your life that belongs entirely to you.